Welcome to Tramlines, a podcast from Agrii. I'm your host, Tony Smith, putting your questions to the experts. Today we are joined by Agrii's Seed Technical Manager, John Miles, David Schaefer, wheat breeder from RAGT, and Hugh Harley, BIPO representative. As farmers and agronomists carefully assess the right wheat varieties for the next season, today we'll explore the new wheat variety, Hexton, its potential fit for your farm, and how an existing seed royalty scheme can benefit your business. So let's delve in and ask the experts. So good afternoon to you all and welcome to Tramlines. John, perhaps I can start with you. I know you'll be very busy and have been very busy talking to farmers across the different iFarms and events such as cereals. Is Hexton a variety that farmers should be interested in?
Yes, is the short answer. It ticks a lot of boxes. You know, there's boxes that don't often get ticked, but which are regionally quite important. You know, David mentioned the north. Varieties like Skyscraper have been around for a long time in Scotland because the yields are astronomical. You know, yield is king, and the fact it distills, and we've got it in front of end users. You know, it's on a variety list with a Scottish end user malting distillery, so that's good. You know, some varieties are stuck around well because of the ability to drill early, and they need good septoria to do that. Again, some of the varieties in the market are not the youngest, you know, and then just to be just a general purpose, you know, high yielding wheat with midge and standing and things like that. So it not only does the general box, it does a lot of, you know, niche boxes or nice bolt-ons around the side.
And David, as the seed breeder, what do you see as the core offering of this variety for growers?
So RGT Hexton, new winter wheat from RGT, put onto the recommended list, new for this year. So it's been in the official trialing system for the 3 years through its set. What we see is a kind of a full, as I said, full UK recommendation, particularly well performing in the north in terms of its yields, but also very, very good second wheat as well. And most of that testing has been done in the east of the country as well. Most of our breeding objectives around Group 4 feed varieties has been towards ensuring that the main diseases are covered. For us at the moment, it's yellow rust and particularly septoria, very difficult to control even in treated contexts. So Hexton has very good disease ratings when it comes down to that. It's also very important through our breeding programs to breed in orange wheat blossom midge resistance, so that you can, you know, avoid having your May insecticide spray, especially in terms of the current climate and direction of travel we want farming to move towards. Coupled with this, there's a couple of market elements as well, which Hexton feeds very well into. It's a distilling type, so it has the capacity to distill, and it also has the UKS, the UK soft export rating as well, which means it suits all the classifications for that. So it holds a lot of cards effectively.
And David, how long has it taken to bring this variety to market? Can you share a little bit of that journey, so to speak?
Well, certainly I can talk about it. I looked back at this with preparation for this, just to know when the original cross was made, and it was November 2015. So Hexton's, you know, pathway to now is almost at 10 years to get this to growers, and you know there's a lot involved in even the initial, you know, selection for a cross, making sure we've got complementary disease resistance QTL across yellow rust and septoria, for example, ensuring we could breed in orange wheat blossom midge. And that's very important in our pipelines to ensure we enrich for that, to make sure that the wheat that rises to the top of the program and can actually make the growers are more likely to have it. And we were talking a bit about with one of my colleagues the other day about how we had a mist descend on one of our breeding nurseries in 2019, and it caused a lot of pre-harvest sprouting. It was a Sunday that it came ripped through, as it were, and there was a very, very busy Sunday afternoon and Monday morning. and Hexton was one of the better, was right amongst the top tranche of surviving material. So it was very good selection pressure that was completely exploited for the development of material. No doubt any variety has a similar story in its lineage, and that's the one that's stuck in my mind with regards to Hexton.
I wonder if the important question that growers who are listening to this podcast would like to ask is, well, John, give me some advice. Where could it fit? Where's it going to work best on my farm?
I think it's as we alluded to, the early drill slot. It's eminently suitable for, with very good standing, good grain, and importantly, really good septoria. So it's going to be really of interest into the west and the south in that respect. And if we ever do get back into a position of export, then the south is a good place to start that. Generally, I think as a soft option through the Midlands and into the east, there is an interest within softs. I mean, we've seen new varieties in the market sort of reinvigorate what was an effectively a reducing area of soft wheats generally. So Hexton will fit there, and obviously the blossom midge and things will help. And then, further north into the distilling market, yielding very high 111 in the north, 111 early sown, good septoria. There's a lot to be said for the Scottish performance of the variety as well. So I think it really does fit in a lot of regions, specifically for what those regions are asking for.
Yeah. And how much work have you done with this variety at Agrii in your iFarms and your other work that I know you do a great deal of?
So we would have looked at the variety in Harvest 23 was the first time that we sort of start looking at, well, we have some of the most promising NL2 material at that time into several trials. So we run those trials in areas where there's septoria and rusts, so it's quite high pressure. And we also have sites down in South Wales, so we really put it under severe pressure when it comes to septoria. So that's really our look-see, where we get to see whether we align to some of the figures coming out of RL or not. And then in more recent years, when it went into recommended list trials, then some of the work that we do jointly funded with the breeders is looking at more agronomics. So we have the blackgrass competition trials at Stow Longer. We do more lodging work because, if you've got fertility, varieties are a lot more different than they appear on paper. And also some of the fungicide work as well, where we're looking at reasonable spend levels, reasonable approaches to disease control, and trying to incorporate biologicals. And they have a bigger part to play with more assurances where you've got good septoria.
Okay, fantastic. But Hugh, let's bring you in here. You've been patiently waiting in the wings. Thank you very much indeed. Because your speciality is representing BIPO. Tell us a bit about the relevance of that scheme with Hexton.
Yeah, so BIPO is probably not a new name to most farmers. It's been around for over 15 years and, works on behalf of 9 breeders with 40, 50 odd varieties. RAGT Hexton is one of the first sort of conventional wheats to go through the RAC system, but in a different manner to previously. The RAC system now operates with a certified royalty attached, and then RAC on farm safe seed. Why is that important for Hexton? I think what David was talking about, November 2015 for a cross, if that's the start of the life of this wheat, there's been 10 years of breeding work, there's been 10 years of screening, there's been 10 years of trials work, from all sorts of approaches to make sure that this variety is suitable for UK markets, which is in itself very different from European markets. Short, tight wheats that we have in the UK it's necessary for them to be screened in the UK, and with that comes added costs and added challenges for the breeder. 10 years down the line, Hexton's coming to market, and that risk that the breeder's taken, our job at BIPO is to make sure that royalties are collected and distributed to breeders to make sure that there's reinvestment and continued growth in the plant breeding sector, which is becoming so important within a challenging global market, to make sure UK farmers are more competitive. And can be competitive in the future, going back to that 10 years, the challenges that we see today are not the same as in 10 years. So as plant breeders, they have to be able to adapt and predict what they might be seeing and ensure that British farmers have access to material in the future.
It's that time of year again when we start thinking about key decisions for this coming autumn. Agrii's 2025 Autumn Yearbook is available now at yearbook.agrii.co.uk. Now, before we came on air, we had a bit of a chat about the scheme, and historically I understand that it's been a bit awkward for farmers. Farmers have got a lot to do, haven't they? So much to do. So can you allay their fears that some of those things have been ironed out? I mean, we're putting all the pressure on your shoulders here, Hugh. Can you give us a bit of an answer where those listening today will go, thanks for reassuring me? What's your response?
So, yeah, I mean, the old RIC system, which Agrii have worked with for a very long time, collected royalties on a per hectare basis, regardless of seed source, whether that be certified seed or farm safe seed. With the likes of Hexton and the other RIGT varieties and others that are now there, the sort of RAC plus, if you will, or the Annex B, which you can see the royalty rates for on the BEPA website, that was created to cut that paperwork and cut those barriers that the farmer was facing. So now, when you buy your certified seed on the first instance this year, when you choose to go into Hexton, the royalty is attached. All you need to do is obtain an RAC number, which takes a couple of minutes. A very easy form to fill out, just farm name, address, and once you've created that RAC agreement, that stays with that holdings for life. So that RAC agreement that you have covers that farm, and it covers all varieties on the RAC system. So regardless or not of Hexton, it's a good idea to have one of these numbers. It's very easy to find on the website with our Find Your RAC tool. And it means that you've got that number and you have access to all the varieties that will be on BEPA in the future, as well as the ones that are there now. So it is an extra step above the BSPB system, but as we said, it takes a very short amount of time, and once you've got it, it's there for life.
Thanks, Hugh, and that sounds good news to me. John, what are your thoughts? Is the scheme much easier to administer now?
Yeah, I don't think it was hard in the first place. But yeah, I mean, some people who grow crops like peas, would all be, many people, other varieties and other species that have been going through the BEPO system for many years. So for a lot of people, it's not a thing. If you haven't been growing things like peas, perhaps then it might be new. But yeah, it's there'll be more varieties going through this system, and particularly from an RIGT point of view, varieties like Goldfinch. We're quite interested in the new BYDV resistant feed Guardsman that is a candidate. Goldfinch has gone via this route as well. So.
And David, Hugh and John have just been reviewing BIPO there as the royalty scheme. From your perspective as the plant breeder, how important is your role holistically in terms of developing varieties for the future? What are your thoughts?
It's our responsibility to deliver the needs for the growers. And to do that, we've got to make sure we hold a lot of cards. It's a breeder's job to hold genetic diversity as it is in the wings, ready to deploy for problems or challenges that we think might happen, that are happening, that our growers might encounter. If there's a change in their environment, we need to, make sure we were already thinking about it a few years prior to that. We do work on diseases at the moment where, for example, we've got complete control, but we need to make sure that if there is an erosion of that control, we're not starting from zero. And that is, any breeder's responsibility is to kind of handle that. And it's because you can't turn it on a dime. It's a very long, slow process, as it were.
With you three experts here on Tramlines, what questions do you expect that farmers would like to ask you if they were here right now? John, I can see you have a question lined up. What is it?
No, I know, because it's one of the most common ones. Is it a good second week? And the answer is you can either look at the sort of out and out yield, and Hexton is sitting there on the RL at 107.8. So it is the highest yielding second week available. But the other way we look at it, which is probably a little bit more of a classical way of looking at it, is its performance as a second wheat better relative to its first week performance? There's two ways of looking at it. And the answer is yes. If it's a classically good second wheat, then actually there is a greater yield as a second wheat. And actually there is an uplift against controls of 2.9% as a first wheat. So it is a very good second wheat.
I mean, it is a very good second wheat. It has that very satisfying high tillering type in Hexton, and a lot of the RGT selection scheme pipeline runs around second wheat testing as well. So that was the very much its breeding, its selection criteria coming through. So it does work very well for that.
And Hugh, from your point of view, what questions do you anticipate farmers asking you?
I think that why do we need to do this is a good question. And I think that comes down to, well, from a breeding point of view, and David could maybe comment on this, what would the grower be wanting in 10 years? What does it look like in 10 years? So that's what they're trying to work out now. What will the chemical controls be? Will there be a need for breeders to, if there's a loss of a chemical control, it's expected that the breeder will have something in the pipeline that could make up for that. I think the why should I do this? By choosing a BPO variety, you're supporting that system and making sure that when those challenges come, plant breeders have the solution at that point. And with the equitable system, regardless of source of seed, that's able to do that and support this plant breeding within the UK, and a very strong industry within the UK. And David will say, I mean, crosses around Europe are made in the UK. So it's a very strong space, and it's one that we need to continue to support and promote to make sure that that is the same in the future.
Very, very good question and a good answer, Hugh. Thank you very much. So, David, as the wheat breeder, what do you think would make a difference on farm? What would you like growers to do as they visit all these trial sites at the moment?
Well, part of it is maintaining a good level of diversity in the varieties that you choose to grow as a defense to changes in the environment, be that changes in the climatic or disease environment, but also changes in your growing protocol environment, which we know has been more volatile over the last 5 years than it has in the past.
And Hugh, for you, thinking about the BPO scheme, what would you suggest growers can do that could make a difference for their farm business?
I think have a go onto the website, get an RIC number, find out about it, and just remember the work that's been going in from people like David to ensure that there is these varieties accessible to farms, and what do we want that to look like in the future.
And John, how would you sum up the discussion here on Tramlines today? What would be your top tips?
I think we are, as Agrii, quite reserved in our variety choice and the risks that we take. And, we actually do believe that Hexton is a very good offering in many, many places. So I think have a good look at Hexton this summer and try some this autumn.
Thank you, John, David and Hugh, for sharing your expert knowledge on the winter wheat variety Hexton and the BPO royalty scheme. Stay tuned to Tramlines for upcoming episodes on the latest news, innovative insights into soil health and nutrition, and the latest thoughts from Groundswell on regenerative farming. If you have any questions for our experts that you'd like answered, email them in to info@agrii.co.uk. That's it for this podcast, but do tune in again as we meet the experts throughout the season, exploring the many immediate and longer-term questions for growers and farmers in the UK. See you next time.